Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I'm Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And the Red Sox win their fourth World Series title in the last 15 years. Lots of news going on right now, but we thought we'd talk a little bit about the best moments in Boston sports history. No, I'm not talking about Francis Ouimet or any great Bruins fights of the past, but the real landscape-changing victories in Boston sports history. And I guess I'd have to start off with Adam Vinatieri's field goal to win the Super Bowl in the 2001-2002 season.
That would be my second best.
Okay.
My best memory is when Havlicek stole the ball. I was there on the floor when it happened, and the place went absolutely nuts. It was a great game up to there, and then when Havlicek stole it, it was unreal.
Well, the Celtics had an incredible rivalry with Philadelphia, and what had happened was that Bill Russell tried to inbound the ball and hit the guy wire from the backboard that was supporting the backboard, and then that led to the 76ers, or just, what were they then? Were they the 76ers?
Yeah.
They were the Warriors.
It might have been the Warriors.
Anyway, Philadelphia had the chance to inbound the ball with somewhere around 5 seconds left to go, and Havlicek made the famous steal over to Sam Jones, and the Celtics won. So, of course, the Red Sox breaking the 86-year losing streak in 2004 would be right up there for me. I remember Keith Folk getting the one hopper back to him and getting over to first base to Doug Minkiewicz, as I recall.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox had a somewhat improbable victory, spurred on by really the trade of Nomar Garciaparra for lesser-known players.
Yeah, that was probably my worst memory. When the Red Sox swept the Yanks four.
What else do you have?
Oh, the next one was, I believe, in '84 when Maxwell was the MVP. I was at that game against the Lakers. And that place, from when the Celtics came on the court, it was like a freight train was going by my head the whole game. You didn't need signs that said noise and all that. Back then, I mean, those were true Celtic fans, not like nowadays where half the people that go are even more just there to listen to the music and all that, and and just have a good time, but not true basketball fans.
Yeah, in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series, the Red Sox were on the cusp of elimination, trailing 6-3 in the 8th inning. Raleigh Eastwick, a hard-throwing right-hander, was on the mound, and Bernie Carbo came up to pinch hit. Carbo was 1-2, and he barely fouled off an Eastwick pitch, just got a little bit and nubbed it behind home plate, and then he hit a 3-run homer into the bleachers in center field, which really was more dramatic than Fisk hitting the home run in the 12th inning. So I would have that up as the next item. I was working in the Quincy House Grill as a college student, and it was just incredible the number of people that were ordering food. We didn't have tips in those days, so I was making $3 an hour slinging hamburgers and beers, and overall, that was the most exciting night I ever worked.
Another one was Butler's interception. That has to be one in the top 5 for me.
Yeah, that's true.
Against Seattle. I mean, that was amazing.
Well, you'd have Hale Flutie with his
It's another one.
pass to beat Miami on the final play to Gerard Phelan. I'm not even sure what year that was, but a remarkable play that brought BC back from certain defeat, really.
But my favorite moment, even though huge, pro fan, Boston, except for the Yankees, was when our daughters were playing volleyball against Arlington Catholic. And when they beat Arlington Catholic 3-0, and Arlington Catholic hadn't lost a set all season, and they beat him 3 in a row, and Denise got that shot down the sideline.
Yeah, she got a topspin.
I mean, that was
winner.
probably, in all the sports, in all the games I've ever watched, that was probably the most exciting I've ever been.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger upsets probably ever, and that Melrose had a good team, but no, I don't think anybody thought before the game that Arlington had the height advantage. They hadn't lost a set. They had a bit of tradition, and Melrose hadn't really won much of anything. So, and then Super Bowl 51, when the Patriots come back from 28-3 late in the third quarter, that was another improbable victory. So I mean, I hate to think about, bad losses, but, for Red Sox fans, the 1978 playoff game, Bucky Dent and the Yankees, but if you're a Yankee fan, then it's one of the highlights of your, memory.
Was it 2003 when Matsui hit that home run off of Martinez, and Grady Little got fired because of that. That was a big moment in all, in sports for Red Sox fans and Yankee fans.
Well, the old joke goes, my wife asked me to call her Pedro because I never take her out. So, anyway, some local excitement. Boston College up to number 14 in the rankings, which seems improbable, but this week they host the Clemson Tigers, who are one of the top 3 teams in college football. Right now you'd have to like Alabama and Clemson to meet in the finals in the football championship.
That would be
bracket.
A great game.
Right.
That'd be a great game. But Alabama showed everybody was worried about their defense, and they just totally denied LSU. I watched that game Saturday. Their defense was tremendous against the run also.
And then there's certain things you become uncertain. Everyone worried about the Pittsburgh Steelers because they didn't have Le'Veon Bell, and they have second-year running back James Conner out of Pittsburgh, who's had over 700 yards rushing. He's the second leading rusher in the NFL. And really, he's shown that he's every bit as good as Bell. So is Bell so good because he has great blocking, or is Conner really just an outstanding player? And right now, I don't think there's any discussion going on between the Steelers and Bell. They just say, we don't need you.
But the thing is, they can't tell him he can't come back either. They have to accept him back. They have to pay him.
Right.
When he comes back for those games, even if they decide they don't want to play him.
Right. So, I mean, you'd have to figure that he'd come back anyway, and after the season, they can trade him if they want.
I wouldn't even dress him. He comes back, and you're not dressing for this game. We go on the road, you're not traveling with us.
Well, certainly the Steelers look pretty good against the Ravens this weekend in one of those, Hatfield and McCoy rivalries that there are in the NFL. Elsewhere, there's some interesting stuff. High first-round draft choice Sam Darnold is quoted as saying, just playing stupid. He threw 3 interceptions in the Jets' last 4 possessions to lose 13-6 against Miami. And, it's not easy being a rookie in the NFL, but it's not looking too good for Darnold so far.
He's talented, though, Ron. He just doesn't have the team with him right now, the offense.
True.
The offensive line. But he's talented, and he will become one of the top quarterbacks in football in the next couple of years. But right now, he's struggling. It's in his head right now.
And, we can jump around a little bit to the Celtics. The Celtics really haven't hit their stride so far. They're not playing great team basketball. Some of the players, I think the rotation has to change. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, that they've got too many guys who want to score in at the beginning of the game, and as a result, the ball's not moving.
Well, we'll see how good Stevens is as a coach. Like I like him as a coach, but I don't think he's as good as people think he is right now. He'll get better as time goes by. He doesn't know how to, again, the Celtics do not defend the pick and roll properly. They don't mix it up. Sabonis just took advantage of them the other day. It was unbelievable the way, and the Celtics didn't know what to do. Instead of just attacking the pick, and try to trap the guy with the ball and then rotate everybody into a zone, they don't do anything like that. They switch on everything.
Yeah, nowadays the NBA is just switch happy, and Sabonis is so big. Scalabrini said he's excellent on the short pick and roll. So they set the screens lower for Sabonis, and he's finishing right around the basket.
Yeah, but you would think if they're setting it low, it would be more difficult, easier to trap them. You trap the ball and then you rotate over. And they weren't doing any of that. What they were doing is they were hedging. You hedge, and the problem with the Celtics is it was so low to pick and roll that if you hedge, it's a wide open little jump shot inside the foul line. So, and then Stevens called a timeout. I thought they would come out with something different. They didn't.
Well, and the final play of the game was not well executed. The play was fine. Stevens likes to throw cross-court passes on the sideline out of bounds play, and what had to happen was that Tatum had to seal the defender, and he didn't. So the defender was able to, if you just get your body on him, he can't really jump, and he didn't, and he jumped up and deflected the pass.
But before that play, when Oladipo got fouled by Brown, Brown didn't foul him. He stepped on Brown's foot. Brown wasn't even going over on him.
Yeah.
He made a move, Brown's standing there, trips on his foot, and he gets 2 shots.
Well, it's hard to win in the NBA on the road because
Then-
you get everything on the
then
calls.
Kyrie misses the layup.
Right.
Even though he hit the 2 big 3-pointers.
Right. It was really a good, well-designed play, but he couldn't get the ball in.
But
It's a long season.
But the thing what the Celtics have to do, this will tell you how good Stevens is. You start Horford at the 5. You put Tice when he gets back at the 4. You sit down Hayward. Even though I love Hayward, sit down Hayward, play Brown, Tatum, and Kyrie. Now you have a role player in Tice. He'll get on the boards. He's quick to the boards. He can hit the shot here and there, but you don't need 5 scores out there. And when I was at the Milwaukee game the other night, and I was telling John, my friend, I said, your centers have shot 10 3-pointers in the first half. You got other scorers there. Your centers should be doing other things besides standing up behind the 3-point line and taking 3-point shots.
Well, to Marcus Smart's credit, he's decreased his shooting attempts this year. He's increased his net efficiency, points per 100 possessions on offense, and fewer allowed on 100 possessions on defense. He's got one of the top plus-minus ratios. So he's playing smarter basketball because he's really not a great outside shooter. And now that he's got paid, he says, I don't have to score. I can just be effective.
But, I looked at that and I said a while ago that the one thing when the Smart signing, it's going to hurt Tatum and Brown. Because what's going to happen here is he's going to take some minutes away from them. That while you're playing Smart, Tatum and Brown are sitting more. And then Smart is taking the person, Oladipo. Now, he did a good job on Oladipo, but he's still taking minutes away from those 2 guys.
Well, at the end of the day, it all works out because there'll always be injuries that will come up, and then the playing time takes care of itself. Now, the player who's overachieved and leads the Celtics in player efficiency ratio, which looks at scoring per minutes allowed, rebounds, the whole works, is Marcus Morris, who's on short money by NBA standards. He's getting $5 million a year, but he's going to get paid next year. He's deadly from the outside, and he's a pretty good rebounder.
He's playing well. He's been their best player so far.
He really has. So.
But Stevens has a lot of work to do with that team.
Yeah, there's guys who just don't look comfortable. Terry Rozier doesn't look comfortable right now. They almost have, you hate to say they have too much talent, but right now they haven't figured out how it all fits together.
I really believe if Hayward comes in with the second team, then Kyrie plays up until 2 minutes to go in the first quarter, and then once Kyrie goes out, now you have Hayward in there really leading the team. And he should be handling the ball more than Rozier in the half court. He's better with the ball. And once he's playing at 100%, you're going to see a big difference.
Well, I've really been surprised. I didn't know Hayward as good as he is on defense. Gets a lot of steals, gets his hands in the passing lanes. He's asked to play down low sometimes defensively, which is tough because he's probably 6'8.5", but he's going up against 6'11" guys.
Mm.
So overall, he rebounds about as well as I thought, and he's a really good passer. That's probably his best underrated skill. Good playmaker.
Tonight's a big game. Denver's 7-1. It's a big game. They got to get that game tonight. This is the second game on the 5-game road trip. And a big game tonight.
Well, Indiana's not a soft touch. They really came out well on that trade when they got rid of Paul George because they got Oladipo and Sabonis. And both of those are legitimate players. Oladipo is really an all-star now.
But Stevens has got to make a decision. I don't want to see Horford, even though he can hit the 3 at times, standing behind the 3-point line and taking more threes than Tatum or Brown. he shouldn't be. He should be setting picks in the middle of the lane, let him come off picks. When have you seen the Celtics run, other than that one pick and roll from the foul line they run once in a while? They don't run picks for players. They don't run plays. They run sets, but not plays.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes going forward. They're not as efficient on offense, and they haven't really, with the exception of the one game when I think they made 24 threes against Milwaukee, they're not scoring enough threes for the number of attempts that they're taking. So it was interesting earlier in the year that Tommy Heinsohn said that Kyrie Irving was a little bit out of shape and overweight, and Irving kind of responded and saying, maybe I was a little out of shape and overweight.
He's playing better since. He said he's been working on losing some weight, so.
So, I mean, Heinsohn, although he can be a little bit annoying because of his harping on the officiating, he's been around the game forever, and he really knows an incredible amount about the game. There's a lot of discussion recently. Bob Cousy has a new book out really discussing his relationship with Bill Russell. And he said that when Russell came to the team, Cousy was, quote, the man, and had a lot of influence with the media, and he didn't appreciate or communicate enough with Russell what Russell was going through. And we know that Russell had a lot of tough times in Boston.
Cousy and Heinsohn used to bang heads a little too back then. I mean, they liked each other, but they weren't afraid to get on each other.
Well, you see that there's a documentary called Everyone Hates Christian Laettner. And Bobby Hurley would talk about when they were playing together at Duke, the other team would score and Laettner would throw the ball in, but he wouldn't throw it to him. He'd throw him like 5 or 6 feet away from him and make him go chase it. And he said, I can't believe my teammate was just intentionally annoying me because he could.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like him, Laettner.
I think everybody
He wasn't well liked. And then when he went to the pros, too, he had that attitude like he was, you know,
well, he was the only
around
college player on the Dream Team, right? So.
Well, he hit that big shot.
Well, he hit the shot against Kentucky, which is forever in people's college basketball fans' memory.
Who threw it in, Hill?
I think it was Grant Hill. I mean, Hill. I was listening to a tape. Trying to remember. I think it was Alvin Gentry who was saying that in the 5 years when Hill was in Orlando, I think he said he made 8 3-pointers or something. And then he went to Phoenix and he hit 100 and something the next year. It was just because he was adaptable enough. Hill is in the top 10 of everything at Duke: points, rebounds, assists. He was just a phenomenal player. For people that don't know, Hill did not grow up poor. He grew up a privileged kid. His father was Calvin Hill, the NFL great. He must be in the Hall of Fame. Who played at Yale and then for the Cowboys.
I was at that game, the Harvard-Yale game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was something. What was it, 28-28 tie?
I think it was 29-29.
29-29.
I think Pete Varney, I think, caught the 2-point conversion. It was the headline was something like Harvard wins 29-29. But not a lot of classics in the Ivy League, but that was one. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now over to Lou, the sports guru, for the lament of the Red Sox fan. Time to give it a rest.
Yes, it is time to give it a rest. Honestly, my mother always said, if you give them attention, then they know they won. They know they got to you. And let's face it, you know, there was a time when the Yankee fan would sit there as leisurely as I am, which is why I'm doing this rant sitting here leisurely, because when the Red Sox would threaten, they would just chomp down in their cigar and say, so what, they're going to choke again anyway. And we did, right? That's what Red Sox always did. But I got to be honest, I mean, since the year 2000, the Yankees have won 75 more games than the Red Sox have over 19 years. So that's pretty good, right? 75 more games. That's, you know, nothing to tighten your collar over. But unfortunately, you know, the Red Sox were always the place where you celebrated the losing seasons. Like, you know, the impossible dream. You know, Robert Goulet and all of those, Canigliaro. Yes, think about that team. But they lost. Or 1975, the greatest World Series ever, when Carlton Fisk hit that home run and the Red Sox we won the World Series 3-4. We celebrated that team forever. Meanwhile, the Yankees were just, anytime we had to play them in a big series in September, we lost. Anytime we had to play them in the playoffs, like that, 78 game, we lost. We always found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But what ended up happening is at some point, Yankee fans, their collars started to get a little bit tighter because the fact of the matter is, well, the Red Sox have won 4 World Series over that span of time. And the Yankees actually are 1-2. And the Red Sox actually won their last 4 playoff games at Yankee Stadium. Unheard of, right? Isn't that unheard of? That never happens. So, if you think about it, we are starting to get the upper hand, I would say. And it's no more, the Red Sox fan, oh my God, we got to go to Yankee Stadium. They always win in April and then they can't win in August and September. No, those days are over. And the Yankee fans, they're no longer sitting back with that, grin of, we're going to Aaron Boone you again. Those days are over. You got to give up. Yankees suck. I mean, in the World Series, I heard them do it. They were on their way to the World Series, and our fans were actually saying, Yankees suck. Are you kidding me? We have the upper hand now. We are the better team. We're the better organization. Now, I'm not going to say that the Yankees are a bad team. They're a really good team. They tried really hard this year. I mean, we had them by 8 games in the standings, and then we kicked them right out of the playoffs. So why would we want to say anything bad about an organization that can't beat us? Right? Does that sound about right? So in other words, the onus is on them, not on us. And you know what? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Right? So go Red Sox.
The Red Sox learned a lot from the Yankees. Some people say money can't buy happiness. I think the Yankees taught us via George Steinbrenner that money can buy happiness. And the Red Sox had 237 million reasons why they won the World Series this year.
Spend, spend, spend. Right? If you can't beat them, outspend them. Isn't that what happened, though? We did, really.
Well,
the luxury tax was made for the Yankees.
The key to the Red Sox beating the Yankees, Eovaldi and Pierce. If Cashman made those moves, the Yankees would have won this. They'd be the champions.
Maybe.
Definitely. If they had Eovaldi pitching against the Red Sox and they had Pierce playing first base.
Well, it's easy to say. You're right about one thing. Yeah, Pierce did get the big hits, and he performed.
I think Dombrowski, more than Cora, at the end, was more of a key factor as well. Cora was the best manager in baseball, but people are forgetting what Dombrowski did.
Well, they were too busy criticizing him, right?
It was the perfect end to the perfect drama because it was unexpected yet obvious. Red Sox fans expected the pitching to collapse. They didn't collapse. And as Ralph predicted before the World Series, the Red Sox came up on top. Now, everyone's proclaiming the genius of Alex Cora, and we'll see. He got a lot of breaks. Moreland comes up in Game 4, hits a 3-run homer. That's probably a 5% event at tops. So it takes a lot of luck to win in the postseason, and the Red Sox certainly had the luck go their way.
Yeah, and you know what? You have to look at the players that did it. Like you say, 5%. Now, Moreland's had some good opportunities. He's had some good success. But like you say, in that spot right there, it was almost like it reminded me of Joe Morgan's Magic back. You know what I mean? Anything he would do, it seemed to work. He had a couple of bonehead things that he did in the World Series that didn't backfire. Right? And, the Dodgers hitting didn't exactly help their cause. Although I think that cavernous ballpark, early on, I mean, like Mookie Betts hit a really good fly ball that would have been off the wall in Fenway and didn't even make the warning track at LA. So, the LA's probably biggest problem that does help Clayton Kershaw, by the way, is what ultimately does them in the playoffs because they can't get the ball out of their own pocket.
What I didn't understand is Kershaw opts out of his contract. The Dodgers should have said, see ya.
$31 million of a guy that's fastball's 91 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That is, I don't understand that one.
He's not the same guy, I mean, by any means, and he's got a lot of innings on his arm, so they could have just let him go and used that money to better purpose.
You know, we know a playoff pitcher when we see one. We've been all of us have watched baseball. You guys obviously longer than me, but I mean, we could sit here naming them all day long. Guys that got to the playoffs and just their stuff became electric, more so than the regular season. And does Kershaw even resemble that? I mean, his ERA is a run higher in the playoffs. So if you want to win a championship, why do you want to pay a guy that much money? Because he's going to get you to, he might get you to first place, but can't get you over the hump. He's a third pitcher in the playoffs.
But the Red Sox definitely showed, you know, the 5 people that were most important for the season the Red Sox had.
You're talking whole season and playoffs?
The whole
or
season
just,
and playoffs.
Okay.
But the 5 people, it goes right from the top all the way down. It really does. It goes Henry, Dombrowski, Cora, Betts, and Martinez. Those are the 5 most
Well,
important people in the organization
I'm always
in regard to this.
I can't give Henry the credit like that though, because I just think he's the accidental billionaire owner that just, you know, just okay, how much do you need? I understand that's a talent in itself, you know, reaching for your wallet.
But
You could pull an elbo or something.
But he
you know what
hires
I mean?
Dombrowski. He hires Dombrowski.
But he had
all
a
right?
track record.
And
Dombrowski,
he gives Dombrowski the money.
Yeah.
All right, to get Seal. Well, he made a trade for Seal. To get Price, to get Martinez, to get the other players that they got. I don't know, Pierce wasn't making much. Evaldi wasn't making much, but he's got the number 1 payroll in baseball.
Right.
Okay.
And it shows.
And then
you know.
Dombrowski with all the moves he made. And then Cora, the way he managed the team. Those are the 3 most important
It was
people
a
in the
series of
organization.
contradictions. You have the bullpen that comes through when unexpected. You have the Gold Glove winner at second base who makes the worst play in the World Series that would have at least partially cost them the 1 game, and he could have been Bill Buckner the second had the Sox collapsed. You had Devers, supposedly the weak defender, play better at third base than Nunez, the strong defender.
Right.
So all the things you normally expect. David Price to collapse in the playoffs. He wins his final 3 games, beating 2 Cy Young Award winners. So things just happen to break the Red Sox way, and that's how baseball goes sometimes.
Yeah, and that has happened in the past with championship teams. They just got there, they were hot at the right time, and let's face it, I mean, you have to be hot and you have to be good for luck to happen that much to you. You know, you can't just depend on lucky breaks and lucky bounces all the time. But you know what, back to Henry though, I mean, I honestly think, like, I don't know, Ernie Bach lives around here, you know? If he was a billionaire, he is a billionaire. If he came in and owned the Red Sox, he would say, all right, well, we got to beat the Yankees. Because let's face it, they are the cream of the crop in the AL East. You're not going to look at the Rays right now as being a major threat over the next 10 years like you do the Yankees or the Orioles or the Blue Jays. You're going to look at the Yankees and say, all right, they're spending, we got to outspend them. They're going after these free agents, so we have to go after that free agent. And I mean, J.D. Martinez, at the beginning, if you think about it, that was, everyone called that a knee-jerk reaction because of who the Yankees signed. They were like, they had to get somebody, so Martinez, weak signing, you know, all the stuff we heard. And look at how it ended up.
Well, at least Dombrowski can feel comfortable, and unlike in 1997, when the Marlins won the World Series, he then got marching orders to disband the team, fire sale, whatever you want to say, and claiming that the team lost $34 million, which was Hollywood accounting, because all of us other businesses which were making money as part of the team, he just said they have nothing to do with the team. And he immediately found a buyer. So if you really were losing $34 million, you probably
Who would
wouldn't
have
have
ran in and bought that?
Exactly. Now, the
yeah.
Red Sox will keep spending.
As they should, though, because look at the money they're pulling in. I mean, do you have to be an accountant to look at that? It's a full ballpark. You know what it costs for concessions. You know what it costs for everything. I mean, it's ridiculous. A hot dog and a beer and a ticket to the game will cost you $200. If you bring a date, forget about it. You know.
Well, standing room only for the postseason started at $638. So I don't know what the ceiling of tickets was, probably in the tens of thousands, which is a mystery to me why anybody would pay that.
Yeah, but you know something? Dombrowski got kind of a raw deal from the press going into this because everybody wanted to look at what happened in Detroit, coincidentally when the Red Sox beat him in the World Series. And as I remember that 2013 team, maybe they were a team of destiny. Maybe it was the marathon bombing and the Boston Strong, and they were just predetermined because everything went their way that year after that. But I don't know, I seem to remember Detroit and St. Louis having the same kind of a team with a bunch of blazing pitches, and the Red Sox hitters couldn't really come around. Ortiz couldn't even come around. They were fouling balls off ridiculously. So it was almost like that team was built on wear down the starting pitch and get to the bullpen and you can win. And that's really how they won that series. And everybody wanted to say, oh, well, Dombrowski, yeah, he forgot the bullpen, and that's why Detroit lost. And I'm like, no, they lost because the Red Sox were actually a better team that year. Lucky years, but definitely. I think this year's team had a little of that too. They had that seventh inning, just because we're down, we're not out.
Well, as Ralph said, the Red Sox make contact. They
Yeah.
just don't strike out that much, which is a key. You put the ball in play, you have a chance. Now, Devers hits the home run, the 3-run homer in Houston, that if it's 10 feet or 15 feet to the right, it's just a fly
Swap
out.
the two balls, the one that ended the game and the one that he hit.
Exactly. The Crawford porch, why it's there, who knows? I'm sure that Verlander's asking why it's there too.
That's going to be in Verlander's next contract. Can you get rid of that? Those seats. Whatever you want to pay me less to make up for the lost revenue.
But the Red Sox now do have at least this year, the end of the bullpen, Barnes, Brazier, Kelly, Kimbrel, they throw 97 and above. And there aren't that many teams that have hitters that can deal with that, and certainly the Dodgers couldn't.
Yeah.
They got a lot of decisions they have to make, though. Valdi, Pierce, Kelly, you know, they may lose all three of those guys.
Well, if you can only bring two back, who do you bring back?
Oh, and then on Kimbrel, too. There's four.
Kimbrel, you got to let go. I think he's been great, but for the amount of saves that he's had over the long haul, when you look historically at closers, I mean, how many of them have had a number of seasons like that and then managed to keep going? I mean, how old is he? 31? I mean, he's not old, but
Well, what if they lose Kimbrel and Kelly?
can't lose Kelly. I think, honestly, with his age and what he just showed, I don't think that was a fluke in the playoffs. I think whatever they did, adjustments they made, and obviously scouting plays a big part because, you know, okay, this guy's coming up, this is what you know, these are your locations, these are your pitches, do not do this. I mean, those are the three things that you're going to go over with every hitter in the scouting meeting. So, I mean, it's still, you got to deliver, though. And I think for him to do what he did in the playoffs, I didn't think he was more of a valuable player than maybe Price or Pierce for what happened, but he should have been in the conversation. He was in the playoffs. He was massive.
Well, we're always plagued by recency bias and sample size. So
Yeah.
Kelly's excellent postseason and the fact that it's fresh in our mind is going to get him paid by somebody. And it'll probably end up being way too much, and he'll probably underachieve the contract.
I bring him back, though, because I'll
And
tell
then-
you, if not as a closer, at least as a setup guy. Because, I mean, if he can give you 2 innings every 2 out of 3, 2 out of 4 games, you know, remember when Rivera was setting up Wetland? I mean, that was the biggest reason that Yankee team won that year. How many 6-inning games did they play?
Well,
you know?
Cora's first stamp on the team came when he released Hanley Ramirez. I mean, that was a good move. He got rid of, I won't say a cancer, but an older veteran who was becoming less productive and could have had a bad influence on younger players. And then the number 2 thing he did is he brought back confidence to the young players who Farrell was just a confidence destroyer for young players.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could tell when LaBella took over, I mean, the guys just started playing for him. I mean, that was the first sign. I didn't even want them to bring Farrell back that next year. But, you know, he picked it up, they won for him, and then they got booted in the playoffs.
He had a good bench coach, too, Cora.
Right.
That's
So-
what it's all about, though, you know.
But they, I said it, like I told you, the lawyer that I know well, is a big Red Sox fan. I told him earlier in the year, I said, the Red Sox, the Yanks aren't going to be, when the Yanks were 2 games ahead, I watched both teams. Watched a lot of Red Sox and watched a lot of Yankee games. And I said, the Red Sox they have better talent, better hitters. The Yankees don't have anybody with a high average. They got a leadoff batter hitting 240. He doesn't get on base enough. The Red Sox have bets on all the time. Then he has power on top of it.
Yeah.
You can be a bets to Gardner, and right there. Then you have Benintendi, who I really like. I think Benintendi's going to be unbelievable.
I know, he's only going to get better. Look at his age.
You got him batting in front of Martinez, too. And then what do the Yankees have? They have Gardner and they have Judge batting second. And then they have Stanton batting either third or fourth. Well, Judge and Stanton strike out a lot.
Yeah, and that's
You
bad
don't
with
see
the,
Bet strike out much. You don't see Benintendi strike out. You don't even see Martinez strike out as much as those guys. They're putting the ball in play. And what people don't realize when they say, Martinez got a bloop hit in the World Series to score 2 runs. I say, yeah. The Yankees would have probably struck out in that. Could have. At least he's getting the bat in the ball. The more you get the bat in the ball, you're going to get more bloop singles.
well, it's how it shows up in the box score,
And nowadays,
bat on
baseball,
ball.
they're talking about home run hitters. And the Yankees broke the record this year in
I know.
home runs. And it was the most boring baseball I've ever watched. No one's running bases. No one's getting on in front of Judge. And they're hitting home runs with no one on base.
Yeah.
And they're striking out. Like, you have men on base with no outs, say first and third, and you're striking out. That's the difference between the Yankees and Red Sox. They're making contact.
Well, we'll see whether the Red Sox can overcome the innocent climb before it turns into the disease of me, according to Pat Riley. So everybody's going to want to get paid, understandably. Now, they're talking about bets at $18 million in arbitration, and I think they're talking Bogart's around $13 million. It is what it is. People get paid a lot of money in arbitration nowadays. No big deal.
But something, I always say this. You got to look at like the fluke factor. So here you got a young team, right? Last year's experience, you can look back now and you could say, well, the Astros were definitely the best team in the league last year. They proved it. They steamrolled the Red Sox. Now, maybe if the Red Sox had a better manager than Farrell, who knows? Maybe they put up a better fight than losing, what was it, 4-1? They got steamrolled. Weren't in it. So, what I see is, okay, so now you got this young nucleus, you got this really great team that, are they going to do again what they did this year? Probably not. Teams usually don't come back and win, follow up 108 wins with 109. They'll probably be closer to 98 if the components are all there. But I think you got to bring this nucleus back. I think all of them, you got to bring them back. I think you have to do what you have to do. If you're already going to pay an absurd amount of money in a luxury tax, and you're already going to basically, I will say it, screw the patrons, stick it to them so you can pay these players. Well, I'm not going to the park, but I want to watch it on TV.
Well, how old is Betts right now?
What is
25.
he? Yeah,
How old is Benintendi?
he's younger. Isn't he like 24? Isn't he?
Yeah,
I would
so.
I would go to their agent right now with Betts.
10-year contract.
I'll give you $350 million for 10 years with Betts. I would go right now and forget the $18 million he'll make this year or whatever. We'll give him right from now. We'll give him $35 million for the next 10 years. And I'd go to Benintendi's agent. I said, we'll give you $200 million over the next 10 years. Give him $20 million. Lock those 2 guys up, and they're going to be challenging for the championship for the next 10 years.
I'd keep him. I think they've, speaking of,
and
you
then
want to
in-
see a sample size, I think they both showed enough.
And in 5
you know?
years, that $35 million, and when
it's going to be a
Betts-
bargain.
when
But
Betts is the best player in baseball and Benintendi's right behind him, you kidding me with those 2 guys? And they have and the rest of they have Dever, another guy they don't want to lose. Dever's going to be a 30-run.
I think he's going to be really good. I think he's definitely going to make that jump.
Maybe we could ask, what player made a mistake by taking a massive contract? I can't think of one player who took the big money.
Well, I can think of a team. Not to get off topic, but Tuukka Rask, it looks like he finally lost his job as the Bruins netminder because they finally brought someone in to challenge him. Speaking of somebody that signed a contract that the team never should have offered. But
but the teams always
yeah.
overpay. The players never outperform. It's almost impossible to outperform the contract.
And Betts could even have an option after 5 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Red Sox would go for that if they're going to give him $35 million.
They have to back the Brinks truck up for him, though. I mean, they haven't. Can you think of a player they've had like him? That the tools he's shown.
He's the best player in baseball.
I mean, the most amazing play he made in the postseason wasn't the leap into the stands with the controversial call out. It was the line drive down the right field line that he threw Kemp out, spinning around and getting this lightning fast
That
guy
was
at second.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know, my father always used to say, I remembered when Jim Rice signed the $2 million contract. And my father said, $2 million. He says, my God, Ted Williams would have been worth $10 million a year with this baseball climate. I mean, what do you think DiMaggio would be worth, you know?
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have some local sports roundup. The 5th and 6th grade team is undefeated at 8-0 and plays Charlestown this weekend in Medford. So congratulations to the youth football program that obviously will be bringing more strong players to the future. Girls cross country is 5-1. Good job for them. Field hockey, a parent wrote me recently and said that the team is rapidly improving. They were able to garner a couple of wins this season. And girls soccer was able to increase their wins up to 4 this year. Swimming is at 3-5, and volleyball is still alive. They're in the quarterfinals of the MIAA tournament tomorrow against Wayland, who is the surprise winner over Danvers. I don't think they'll be taking Wayland lightly. Ralph's going to talk about things on the boys' side.
What time was that game tomorrow?
6 o'clock.
And the football team was 5-4. I mean, it's not what they're used to over the last 6 years, but still very competitive. Played some real good, talented teams.
And they played Belmont this week.
They played Belmont this week, and then they have the Thanksgiving Day game.
Right.
Where's that? Is that at home or away?
I think it's in Wakefield this year.
In Wakefield. And the soccer team, they had a good year. They lost in the first round.
Right, but they were 6-4.
And they're fairly young too, so that should be good. And tell us about the volleyball team. What do you think about them?
Well, the volleyball team is very young. They don't have any seniors this year. They have a number of strong players. Emma Randolph was moved to the outside hitter, and she has almost 300 kills this season. She has the number 8 amount of kills in the state of Massachusetts, so she's had a good season. Erin Torpy is playing outside, also has over 150 kills, and Emily Hudson, whose sister was moved up for the playoffs, has in the top 40 in kills in Massachusetts. They all have done exceptionally well. You had in the back, you have Mary Kate Mahoney, who was an all-star player this year, selected along with, I believe, Emma and Erin. And Nicole Abbott was the co-MVP in the Freedom Division. They have a couple of capable setters. Kiki Kiernan's a sophomore, Autumn Whalen's a freshman. Both of them are averaging over 5 assists per set. Autumn's gotten a little bit more of the playing time recently. And they have a lot of promising young players. So I think that they're going to be exceptionally strong next year. If they can beat Wayland tomorrow, they're most likely going to face Linfield, whom they've done well against in the past. So they have a chance to get into the sectional finals, which is almost certainly going to be Arlington Catholic. Arlington Catholic has the strength on the other side of the bracket. So you never know. Melrose has played a lot of close, tough games this season. I think that they're learning how to win. They're learning how to finish games off. A lot of games against competitive teams, they're winning the first set and then they can't carry the momentum ahead. But they're definitely improving. And whenever you have young, improving teams, anything can happen.
Right. I mean, they have no seniors on the team, like you said. So it's kind of difficult because the experience factor. You know, say you just had 2 real good seniors playing with this group.
Right.
I mean, they would be really probably the top team in Division II. So,
you know, sometimes you need that senior leadership, that outspoken something extra that helps propel players to make one more play.
But you know what I noticed too is the Middlesex League's a lot tougher than it used to be. You know, back then when our daughters were playing, it was basically Reading, you know, and that was it. It was Melrose and Reading. And the other teams, you knew they were going to be victories.
Right, and as far as the big picture is that they've won 12 consecutive league championships. So granted that it's changed a bit because of the somewhat arbitrary division between large and small, the Liberty and Freedom divisions. And you have to wonder, Melrose's enrollment's been growing, and I don't know if the alignment may switch in the next couple of years. I don't know if their enrollment is going to overtake any of the large division teams.
Well, who's the best team in the Middlesex League altogether? Is it Winchester?
Reading had Reading had one more win than Melrose this season.
And what about Winchester?
Winchester fell off a little bit
Really?
this year. So a lot of good teams though. The teams that, you know, I don't remember many of the teams ever taking a set from Melrose before. Wakefield took a set from Melrose this season, and they were a lot better. It wasn't that Melrose played poorly. Some of these teams are growing their programs. They're doing it the right way. There's a lot of players playing off season, and that's why they're having more success.
Coaching's huge. In any sport, coaching's big, but in volleyball, I mean, you need real good coaching.
And then, speaking of coaching, you know, the Patriots started off slowly. They won their first game and then fell off, and here we are, almost to the break, and they're 7-2 with a 6-game winning streak. Another kind of tough game last night. Execution wasn't great, but I won't say held on. They really came alive in the fourth quarter, scored 2 touchdowns, in large part because of trick plays. And they were able to beat the Packers, who are maybe not their best, but always a threat with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they need, if they're going to do anything, the Patriots, they need Gronk back playing well. I mean, Gronk's going to have to be a factor somehow. I know he's been injured a lot during the season. They say he's not as explosive as he's been in the past, but they need him to be efficient, because if he can become their prime receiver, it's going to make it that much easier for the team, the offense. I mean, they're not scoring enough touchdowns. You know, they have so many opportunities, but then they're kicking field goals.
Well, somebody at the beginning of the year said that the 2 most productive players were going to be Cordarrelle Patterson as a running back and Josh Gordon in the middle of the season, you would have said, what? So they've made some good adjustments. For example, on kickoffs, they're no longer trying to pop it up because they were,
right.
You know,
Well,
whenever they can, they're getting it into the end zone, because they're really not able to contain the other teams with the changes in the kickoff coverage.
And the defense is playing a lot better, too. I mean, they had a good game yesterday.
Right. They've got isolation on the cornerbacks, and Stephon Gilmore was really exceptional yesterday against Devontae Adams. And they're getting enough pass rush, even though they're not getting a lot of sacks, but they're getting more pressure.
Flowers is playing really good. He's giving them a lot. You know, their linebackers are playing okay. But, you know, they had one play there where Jason McCourty got beat on that deep, but they didn't have anybody in there free safety. They brought his brother up, so they left him one-on-one. I didn't know. He had to be thinking he had a free safety in there.
Well, what they did yesterday is, in order to try to confuse the Packers as far as where the pass rush was coming, they put 11 players in the box until just before the snap, and then would back off safeties. So that forced Rodgers into tougher reads. And, I mean, it did work. They held him down. He had a quarterback rating of 89, which isn't outstanding. And overall, they just played better football. And they got reasonable production, as they always do, from James White, who seems to be invisible to the other team out there. He just slips out of the backfield, and he's wide open. Somehow you'd think that other teams would assign a guy to him, but...
Yeah, I thought he hurt his leg, but he came back in after. I said, if he goes down. Hopefully Michelle's back next week. But I like Patterson. Get him the ball in the open field.
It was an interview. It was funny today. They did an interview with James White on ESPN. In the middle of the interview, he just starts laughing. And somebody says, "What's so funny?" And he said, oh, Coach Belichick just came by and asked, are you interviewing yourself? So Gordon's been able to stay out of trouble except for some tardiness at times. I don't, he's a troubled guy. He's a productive player.
He has good hands, and he takes the hit.
And he played part of the game yesterday with a dislocated finger, which, if anybody's ever had a dislocated finger, is extremely painful.
See that catch he made, but he was out of bounds?
Yeah.
I mean, he has good hands, and Brady's getting more and more comfortable with him.
And he's a tough guy.
But no, he still doesn't know the back shoulder pass yet. You see him in the end zone when he overran instead of slowing down. Brady's got to work with him on that.
But overall, generally the play was a lot better than it has been.
Yeah, I mean, hey, 6 in a row. They got Tennessee this Sunday.
Right, and probably the most underrated part of the team this season has been the offensive line. Trent Brown, who is supposedly 6'8" and 380, he might be more than that as far as weight, has been really tough, which is just to get around him, you have to practically need prisms. He's so big.
And Karras did okay for Mason.
Karras did well for Mason. Karras can run. He's got a nasty streak. Anybody who remembers his uncle Alex Karras, who has played for the Detroit Lions and stars as Mongo in Blazing Saddles, one of the classic Mel Brooks movies.
But how do you give Mason $10 million?
I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff happening in the NFL this year. The Rams look like they were potentially a threat to go and challenge the Dolphins season, their undefeated season, and that ended yesterday at New Orleans. The Saints were outstanding. Drew Brees, another ageless wonder. He was fantastic for the Saints. And they've got this, I think he's a second-year player, Alvin Kamara, who is all over the place. He's a running back who can catch out of the backfield, really quick, and was outstanding. You have, at the halfway mark, Pat Mahomes has 29 touchdowns, which is incredible. He's on the pace to go almost get 60. They've got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, two spectacular receivers. Kelce got outplayed by Gronkowski in the game against Kansas City here, but he was excellent yesterday. And you have Adam Thielen playing for Minnesota, who has 947 yards at 8 games. I think 9 touchdowns. Is it 9 or 6? Excuse me, 6 touchdowns. He was an undrafted player out of Minnesota State, which is phenomenal. So the Patriots have Minnesota.
First week in December.
Okay.
I'm going to that game.
Excellent.
It's a 4:25 start.
Okay. So I think the Patriots are done with the Sunday night and Monday night games.
Yeah, I think they hit the limit. Is it 6 games?
Yeah, I think it's 5 or 6, but and it's really tough for the players because it then means they have a short week into the next week. So Belichick was happy that they're finishing up with that part of the schedule.
Well, Sunday I'm going to miss that game because I'm going to a more important game, the UConn home opener, UConn women's team.
So who are they playing?
They're playing Ohio State on national TV.
All right, now, I thought I read somewhere that Notre Dame was ranked #1 going into the season, which, of course,
No, they have that whole team back. But UConn's going to be the surprise. I think UConn's 4th or 5th rated. But UConn's going to have a lot of talent.
Well, the one thing you don't see on the girls' side is the scandal. For example, tomorrow, Kansas opens up with a doubleheader, and one of their prize recruits, D'Souza, they've ruled him out until they figure out what's going on with the AAU shoe payments, which the kid didn't know anything about, but supposedly his AAU coach was taking money or something.
So and he can't play until they straighten it out?
So he's not playing. But
against Michigan State, right?
But I think it is. But you don't hear that Bill Self, the coach, he doesn't take any penalty.
That's unbelievable. He didn't know anything about it and he has to sit?
That's what they said.
But that's quite a doubleheader, You got Kansas, Michigan State,
and Duke, Kentucky. Yeah,
they were showing the Duke practice. Did you see it last night?
No.
But that was something. Krzyzewski was stopping them more than I did. My kids. He was blowing a whistle every 2 seconds, but he says But he was really good, just listening to him, coach them.
Well, Krzyzewski has the freshman phenom Zion Williamson that everybody's talking about, and he's going to be one of the top few draft choices going into the season. Bad news for the Celtics is that Sacramento's won 6 games early somehow.
They got killed last night by Milwaukee.
Oh.
Milwaukee killed them. They beat them they were up by 40 at one time. They're going to start losing, especially when they play those good teams out there.
Yeah, somehow. Well, and then Markelle Fultz, the Sixers draft choice from last year, is really struggling still. To say that he's had a shooting slump would be an underestimation. He took a shot yesterday. It was a three-pointer. It went about 3 feet short and 2 feet wide.
There's something wrong with his shoulder. There's got to be, because you see him, it's like breaking the shot.
Yeah, he just doesn't look right at all. Whether he's hurt or he's got some kind of psychological impairment that's keeping him from playing.
But my prediction with the women's basketball, that Katie Lou Samuelson is the player of the year in college basketball.
Yeah, she's a terrific player. She's big. She's like 6'3". She's mobile. She's as good a shooter as you're going to see.
Passer.
Last year she had a game where she scored 40 points, including 10 for 10 on three-pointers. And just a really remarkable player.
But there's nothing like women's basketball. Watching UConn play, Notre Dame, and watching those teams. I think it's going to be between the two of those teams. Baylor's good, Texas, Oregon's got a good team. So I love watching when the good teams play. Just like in high school volleyball. I love watching when there's 2 real good volleyball teams playing.
Well, the women's game is played below the rim, and it's played with tremendous amount of thought. The coaches strategize. They put players in position to succeed, and it's not just roll the ball out and let them play.
But women's college basketball is better than men's college basketball, to me. I would want to see, I'd pick UConn, and I'm a Duke fan too, Duke men, and UConn. I would take the UConn women's team playing against Notre Dame than Duke playing against Kansas or any one of those top teams. I'd rather see that game and just the way they play the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of, on the men's side, people say, well, how come a player generally has struggled so much going from college to the NBA? And the answer is, it's not the athleticism, it's not the size, it's the defense that they play. So much of the game is pick and roll oriented, and picking up the various ways that teams defend the pick and roll. Literally, it either earns you a spot or costs you time. Tatum did a good job last year. Again, the Celtics, in some ways, have an easier system because they switch everything. But when you do that, you expose yourself to mismatches, especially small on big. And the game's being designed now to create these mismatches and force bigs to play against smalls and vice versa.
But in the Celtics, you watch it, the Celtics teams they run the pick and roll against the Celtics constantly. Celtics very rarely run the pick and roll. Only from the foul line they'll run that pick and roll, with their big. But other teams, the Celtics are very good defensive on-the-ball defensive players. Problem is, teams are setting picks on them constantly, and they're switching all the time.
Well, it's still early, and I think they'll make some adjustments and be okay. But it's not a cakewalk to the finals. Toronto's really good. Milwaukee's very, very good. Philadelphia, I think they've got some holes because they've got too many non-shooters. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.